The real reason you're broke. And it's not your fault. Most people will never understand why they stay broke. They work harder, they hustle more, they chase opportunities, and still, nothing changes. The money comes in, and the money goes out. The cycle never breaks, and they think it's their fault. They think they're not disciplined enough, not smart enough, not motivated enough, but that's not the truth. The truth is far more uncomfortable. You're broke because the system is designed to keep you that way. And until you understand how it works, you'll keep playing a game you were never meant to win. Let's start with something most people refuse to accept. The economy doesn't reward hard work. It rewards ownership. It rewards control. It rewards assets. The person working 60 hours a week is not building wealth. They're maintaining someone else's wealth. The system is structured so that your labor enriches capital. Your paycheck is the cost of keeping you functional. It's not designed to set you free. It's designed to keep you dependent. And the moment you understand that, everything changes. Because once you see the game clearly, you can't unsee it. And that clarity is the first step toward freedom. Now let's talk about debt, because debt is the real trap. And most people don't even realize they're in it. Credit cards, car loans, student loans, mortgages, business lines of credit, payment plans, buy now, pay later. Every single one of these systems exists for one reason: to extract wealth from you over time, to lock you into a cycle where your future income is already spent before you even earn it. You think you're building a life, but you're actually building a financial prison, and the walls are invisible. You don't feel trapped until you try to leave. You don't realize you're locked in until you try to walk away. And by then, the interest has compounded, the payments have stacked, and escape feels impossible. Here's what they don't teach you. All debt is bad debt. Not just consumer debt, not just credit cards, all of it. Because debt is not a tool, it's a trap. And the lie that separates good debt from bad debt is one of the most dangerous myths in personal finance. They tell you that borrowing for a house is smart, that borrowing for business is leverage, that borrowing for education is an investment. But none of that changes the fundamental reality. When you owe money, you are not free. When you owe money, you are owned. And every dollar you pay in interest is wealth leaving your life permanently. Let's talk about why people use debt. Because understanding the rationalization is part of breaking free from it. People borrow because they don't want to wait. They see an opportunity and they convince themselves they need to act now. They see a house they like and they convince themselves they can afford the payment. They see a business idea and they convince themselves that leverage will accelerate their success. And in every case, it's the same psychological trap: impatience, the unwillingness to delay gratification, the belief that the math will work out in their favor. But behavior always beats math. Always. Here's the truth about business debt. Business owners will tell you that debt is how you scale, that you need leverage to grow, that taking on debt is what separates the ambitious from the mediocre. And on paper, it sounds smart. Borrow money at 5%, invest it at 10%, keep the spread, build the empire. But that logic ignores the single most important factor: risk. Because debt doesn't just amplify your gains, it amplifies your losses, it amplifies your stress, it amplifies your vulnerability. And when the market shifts, when the economy turns, when the unexpected happens, the people with debt are the first to fall. Let's go back to 2008, because that's the clearest example of what happens when everyone believes debt is a tool. Banks use debt. Hedge funds use debt. Real estate investors use debt. And they all had the same story. This is smart money. This is leverage. This is how you win. Until it wasn't. Until the entire system collapsed under the weight of over-leveraging. And the institutions that survived were not the ones with the most debt. They were the ones with the most cash. The ones who didn't need to borrow. The ones who could weather the storm because they weren't obligated to anyone. Here's what most people miss. Even the so-called smart money gets it wrong. Even institutions with teams of analysts and risk managers and financial models still fail when they use debt. Because debt is not just a financial decision. It's a behavioral decision. And behavior under pressure is unpredictable. You can run every model. You can stress test every scenario. But you can't predict human panic. You can't predict market crashes. You can't predict the moment when liquidity disappears and everyone wants their money back at the same time. And when that moment comes, debt is the anchor that drowns you. Now let's talk about mortgages, because this is where people get the most defensive. They say a mortgage is good debt. They say everyone has a mortgage. They say you can't build wealth without real estate. And all of that is wrong. A mortgage is not good debt. It's just normalized debt. It's culturally accepted debt. But it's still debt. And every month you make that payment, you're sending wealth out of your life. You're paying interest to a bank that did nothing but move numbers on a screen. And over 30 years, you'll pay nearly double what the house was worth. That's not smart. That's not leverage. That's bondage. Here's the reality. The truly wealthy don't use mortgages. They pay cash. And if they don't have the cash, they wait until they do. Because they understand something most people never learn. Patience builds wealth. Debt destroys it. And the person who waits 5 years to save for a house in cash will always be wealthier than the person who borrows and pays interest for 30 years. Not just financially, psychologically, because the person who owns their home outright sleeps differently. They think differently. They make decisions differently because they're not afraid of losing it. They're not one layoff away from foreclosure. They're not trapped by the payment. Let's go deeper, because the real reason debt is dangerous isn't just the financial cost. It's the psychological cost. Debt changes how you think. It changes what you believe is possible. When you owe money, you stop making decisions based on what you want. You start making decisions based on what you can afford. You stop thinking about freedom. You start thinking about payments. You stop asking if something serves your future. You start asking if you can squeeze it into your budget. And over time, that mentality becomes your identity. You stop being someone who builds wealth. You become someone who manages debt. And that shift is permanent unless you choose to reverse it. The system knows this. It's not an accident. It's by design. Because a person in debt is a person who can't take risks. A person in debt is a person who stays at the job they hate. A person in debt is a person who accepts conditions they would never tolerate if they were free. Debt is control, and the people who control the debt control your life. Not with force, not with violence, with payments, with interest, with the slow, steady extraction of your future. And most people never even realize it's happening. Now let's talk about what separates the people who break free from the people who stay trapped. The decision to go completely debt-free. Not just low debt, not just good debt, zero debt. Because freedom is not a spectrum. You're either free or you're not. And as long as you owe anyone anything, you're not free. Your income is not yours. Your home is not yours. Your future is not yours. It belongs to whoever holds the note. And until you break that chain completely, you're still playing someone else's game. Here's what this looks like in practice. You stop borrowing for anything. You stop financing cars. You stop using credit cards. You stop taking out loans for business ideas or education or emergencies. And yes, that means you move slower. It means you save longer. It means you delay gratification. But that delay is not sacrifice, it's strategy. Because every dollar you don't pay in interest is a dollar you get to keep. Every payment you don't make is cash flow you can direct toward building wealth. And over time, that difference compounds into something most people never experience: true financial peace. Let's go back to identity, because this is where the real transformation happens. You don't change your financial life by changing your tactics. You change your financial life by changing your identity. When you see yourself as someone who is debt-free, your behavior changes automatically. You stop buying things that don't serve your future. You stop tolerating financial mediocrity as normal. And you start making decisions from a place of abundance instead of scarcity. That shift is not motivational. It's metaphysical. It's a change in who you are at the subconscious level. And once it happens, your external reality has no choice but to follow. Here's the part most people struggle with. Becoming debt-free feels impossible at first. You look at your balances and think, how can I ever pay this off? But that's the entire point. Your current reality is the result of your past decisions. If you want a different reality, you need different decisions. And those decisions have to start now, not after you make more money, not after the next opportunity. Now, you attack the debt with intensity. You sell things, you work extra, you cut expenses, you do whatever it takes, because freedom is worth more than comfort. And the temporary pain of sacrifice is nothing compared to the permanent pain of bondage. This is where discipline separates winners from losers. Not the loud, performative kind. The quiet, relentless kind. The kind that wakes up every day and makes the decision that serves the future instead of the moment. The kind that says no to the temporary pleasure because it's protecting something greater. The kind that understands delayed gratification is not sacrifice. It's investment. And every small decision compounds. Every dollar saved is a seed planted. Every debt eliminated is a chain broken. And over time, those decisions produce results that look like miracles to people who never made them. Let's bring this back to the system, because understanding the system is part of the awakening. You're not failing because you're weak. You're failing because the game is rigged. And once you see that, you stop blaming yourself. You stop feeling guilty. You stop internalizing the shame of being broke. And you start playing a different game. You stop trying to win within a system designed to extract from you. And you start building systems that serve you. That's the shift. That's the freedom. That's the path to wealth. Here's the final truth. Most people are one identity shift away from everything they want. They have the intelligence, they have the access, they have the opportunity. What they don't have is the internal belief that they are the kind of person who wins. And that belief is not something you find. It's something you choose. You decide that you are debt-free. You decide that you are wealthy. You decide that you are the kind of person who builds empires without owing anyone anything. And then you act from that place. Not someday. Not when you feel ready. Now. Because the version of you that is free already exists. You just have to step into it. You are not broke because you lack opportunity. You are broke because you've been conditioned to accept debt as normal. The system wants you to stay dependent. It profits from your payments. It profits from your interest. It profits from your belief that you need to borrow to succeed. But the moment you reject that story, the game changes. You stop being a participant in someone else's economy, and you start being the architect of your own. That's the shift. That's the awakening. That's the beginning of everything. This is Luxona, where millionaires are made.